Yes, Jah people, this is Michael Shamaya representing. I will say, Hail the Lion voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes, wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
It's AWTITUDE representing for Lion's Voice. Yes, massive. This is the time for I and I, the lion them to tell I and I story, our story. Yes, and we reign and rule like this. Reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, I reign and rule. You can't take the lion vibes, people. If you no fool, cause we know Selassie reign and rule. Reign and rule. Selassie, I reign and rule. Queen Omega drop them in the fire, pull from them, no Queen Omega, she reign and rule. Royal Kushite, ancient essence, Emperor Selassie in a majestical presence, flash of all sevens, projecting through I and I events. We sing a song for the king, we bring joy and blessing and overstanding, yeah. We hear Jah every day, reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, reign and rule. Yes, I lion vibes, Selassie, reign and rule. Attitude say that Boondocks, Black Organization of Global Diplomats optimizing expressions to the world. Till the world, till the end.
Amina, the time has come for the lioness to tell our own story. No surrender, no retreat, we are Jah soldier. Rougher than the streets, tougher than a boulder. Bigging up Lamb's voice. Now put it. I jolly for say that.
And I must say here that I am a student of midwifery and an advocate of natural birth and a natural birther myself. And in those circles, we talk about the pre-baby. What is happening between the parents before the conception even happens?
Yeah.
Right? And how important that is for the outcome of who we have in front of us once the child manifests. And we can see from the stage of the pre-baby, as he explains, he makes it 100% clear, even though the actual gentleman that wrote and translated his autobiography, may not have put the right emphasis on it. We have to accept that it's a translation. He says, my father loved my mother. Almost like what we see with Hatshepsut in the ancient Nile, where she writes out her conception story on the walls of her temple. Like, do not think that I was conceived wrongly. I was conceived of the gods. His Majesty also makes it clear. He loved my mother and married her in Christian form.
The year is 1892. And the land of Ethiopia has been experiencing 4 years of terrible famine and drought. They call it the Kikuken, or the evil days. At least 1/3 of the human population and 90% of the cattle have died. The hyenas have feasted on so many carcasses that they have become overweight and barely able to move. Just when the people could take no more of the evil days, a woman named Wasiro Yeshimabet is giving birth in a place called Ergersa Gora. This is her 9th attempt to bring forth new life. Her previous 8 attempts only resulted in death. Will this child live? Thankfully, a healthy baby boy is born. His first cries are drowned by thunder and lightning flashes across the night sky. The heavens open up and torrential rain starts to fall. Ethiopia's drought is over, and the baby boy is given the name Tafari, meaning one to be feared or respected. Tafari's father, Ras Tafari, is a very important man in 1892 Ethiopia. Although he is overjoyed at the birth of his newborn son, he cannot spend much time with him. Ras Tafari is the governor of Harar and must get back to the famous walled city to deal with its affairs. Furthermore, he is the foreign minister of Ethiopia, and having traveled to different places in Europe, he is very aware of the material and military advances they have made and the looming threats they pose to his country. Ras knows that the majority of Ethiopians have no idea what is coming, and that he has to work that much harder to secure the realm. Ras Tafari would grow up to become the legendary emperor, Haile Selassie I. To understand his journey, we must first understand the Ethiopia that he was inheriting, and what it was like when he was born in 1892. Get your copy of Kwesi Bansu's book, Haile Selassie I Ethiopia, Volume 1, The Rise of the Priestly Warrior Kings, and increase your knowledge about the history, politics, and culture of Ethiopia in 1892, and how it connects to the rest of African and world history at the time. Haile Selassie I Ethiopia, Volume 1 is available for purchase at www.bookmanexpress.pub. Please visit for more information.
It's a serious thing. And it was usual, the people who know the least about it tends to be I people, you know. All of Rome knew of this and observing. You see, all the religious people talk about the virgin birth and Jesus' birth and them.
Yes.
It's a culture of people that, you know. So the same way these European people who are historians, that's why the people who are archaeologists and historians are so revered in scholarship, because them give people insight into certain things. And so they were aware of this, what people might even call a prophecy of the birth of Haile Selassie, and them see these things happening.
Some people say that the Battle of Adwa, that the Italian invasion and the move was to stamp out, because the third son of Ras McConnell's son started to get out, because this was a youth with unusual abilities, and we're going to talk about some of the unusual abilities. So some people say Adwa was really the Rome now, sending a force to really take, you know, of course the Berlin Conference, they had reserved that space for themselves, but they move, and His Majesty would have been the age of 4, and I just started that because you saw it say, you know, 4 is the age of stability.
Yeah,
His Majesty was 4 years old at the Battle of Adwa.
So
there's so much connection. Family, we're going deep tonight, you know. Drop your comments. Let us know where you're watching from as well. So any questions you have for the two guests, we'll try to get to them.
And not just question for you, because I remember saying these people are a whole reservoir of information.
Reservoir of information, yes.
We don't know monopoly for knowledge. So anybody have any information to share?
Yeah, man. You know? Put it in the comments. And make the reasoning sweet. So stick a pin there, Knife. So Dr. Asantewaa, you hear what the brethren say. What do I want to add to that?
Listen, I love numerology, but the way you explained it was brand new. So yes, give thanks. It made perfect sense to me when we look at numbers, especially that number 5 being a number of change, because that is what we're really going to see in terms of change. And I just wanted to add that, you know, I came up like most around Rastafari people. And, you know, sometimes as we talk to each other, we talk with a lot of mysticism, you know, and, you know, there's a whole lot of, you know, spiritual thought around the birth of His Majesty. And I really appreciate that. Honestly, you can relish the mysticism. It just has more that you can soak up. But I think that just in terms of your point, Mr. Kwesi, about how we preserve this for the future, there's some things that we have to make clear that are mystic, but exceed that, also are historical, also have understandings from the world of psychology, from the world of sociology. There's implications for it all, right? It's not just mystical. It also has implications across the board. So if we look at how the child Tafari was born, and so very little is known, and I really appreciate the work of Dr. Willette Beresford and other people like Ras Kipps Ezekiel, who's doing more on His Majesty's mother and His Majesty's birth. But even just from what we have from the autobiography of His Majesty, he makes it clear, like from the outset, and I must say here that I am a student of midwifery and an advocate of natural birth and a natural birther myself. And in those circles, we talk about the pre-baby. What is happening between the parents before the conception even happens? Right? And how important that is for the outcome of who we have in front of us once the child manifests. And we can see from the stage of the pre-baby, as he explains, he makes it 100% clear, even though the actual gentleman that wrote and translated his autobiography, may not have put the right emphasis on it. We have to accept that it's a translation. He says, my father loved my mother. Almost like what we see with Hatshepsut in the ancient Nile, where she writes out her conception story on the walls of her temple. Like, do not think that I was conceived wrongly. I was conceived of the gods. His Majesty also makes it clear. He loved my mother and married her in Christian form. Now, this is important when you understand the sociology or the makeup of Ethiopia, which allowed for a common marriage. If necessary, one that can be easily overturned if necessary, right? But also had a church marriage. And those marriages that were done in the church could not be overturned.
Tell them bowledge, the far eye. Tell them bow, I listen last eye when me tell them bowledge, the far eye. Tell them bow, I listen last eye when me tell them bowledge, the far eye. Tell them bow, I listen last eye when me tell them bowledge, the far eye. Tell them bow, I listen last eye. The 23rd of July. Born in a province named Hazar, I burn them God from sky. Cause I know the prophecy is true. Cause unto us the son was born 1892. And he built the OAU, come break all chains. Tell them to far eye, was his name the same? Man is crowned as the Ras, it didn't come fast. Went from village to the chess match, who governed in Harar from the age of 13. This is you blessed with Irit, supreme first king. Hear the throne with him queen, hear the trumpet sound. Gather round, tell the youths them come in village. The far eye, tell them bow, I listen lassie, I let me tell them bowledge. The far eye, tell them bow, I listen lassie, I tell them so. Fight so many wars, just to centralize the tribes. No 9 to 5 remains. Came when the king arrived, cause out of the womb of H.I.M, bet he survived, born wise. Plus he focused on his plan, no joke. Armies await his command. They say a child shall lead the way. When them see how the warriors surround, that's when the people then say, this child destined for the throne. When them see how we govern in Harar, that's when they all bow down. The government on his shoulders, Mussolini coming with his plan. He's preparing his soldiers, but his plan has to fail. Weep not, the Lion of Judah prevail. Hailage, the far eye.